All right, guys, I'm Kyle Welcher, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro. We're here with BassResource.com, and we're going to talk about actually one of my favorite months to bass fish. That's August. I fish a ton of small tournaments at home. We travel around the country, usually wrapping our season up in August, and it's a big time at the end of the year. You know, every single August we got a couple tournaments, and you better catch them in it because you want to make the classic and keep going. So I feel like those tournaments, even though points count the same all year, it feels like them late season tournaments matter just a little bit more. And to me, the best thing you could ever do in August is be around the bait fish. You know, I live in the Southeast, and where I live, it's all about the bluegill. It's bluegill dominated in August like 100%. If you can find where those bluegill beds are, or the shallow docks the bluegills are using, or the deep docks, wherever they seem to be, that's where you're going to have your most success. And it's obvious bluegill love to be in the shade. So I target a ton of shade in August, whether it be overhanging trees, just early in the morning shade from, you know, the trees on the bank, or docks or bridges, anything. Those fish are going to congregate underneath the shade because that's what bluegill like. Bluegill like to be in shallow water close to the shade. So I'm gonna tell y'all 5 of my favorite lures to use and baits to use in August, because I fish a lot in August. I like it whenever it's super hot and slick, calm. It's hard to get a bite, but it can be really fun and really rewarding. And typically it's grinder tournaments would kind of fit my style, but there's a couple trends I'm gonna go with. For one, I'm not gonna use anything bulky in August. Bulky to me is pre-spawn, cold water, you know, big jigs, big chunks, big vibrating jigs, that kind of stuff to me is pre-spawn. August is one of those things where you gotta do everything in your power to generate a bite or two. And that means you're gonna need to make them react or have something that they're, you know, gonna have no problem eating. And for me, it's typically gonna be more soft plastic. So we're gonna jump right into it. The number one August bait, everybody knows in the summer, a buzz bait can be absolutely deadly. Now, in August, I'm not gonna throw a buzz bait with a big blade on it. I'm typically gonna throw one that's got like a 3/8 ounce with like a medium-sized blade on it, something that I can reel kind of slow, but you have to keep it moving because you want to make those fish react. And I'm going to typically throw a smaller profile bait on the back. For the last couple years, I've really been throwing a Crust City cleanup crawl on the back, and it's just something that's small and subtle, and whenever they kind of react to it, they get it, you know, more times than not. So a buzz bait is a phenomenal choice in August. I throw it on 30-pound braid, typically a 7'3" medium heavy moderate rod, and then a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. To me, a buzz bait is just one of those things that you have to have it on the front deck that time of year, and you can catch them in the middle of the day, early in the morning, or late in the evening. It seems like when they get on that bite, it's a really, really fun way to catch them. We'll go straight into, we'll keep up with the topwater trend, because August to me is literally topwater and then soft plastic. That's what I'm going to fish with in August. So another one is a frog. You know, I like the popping frog. I feel like when you get it up there in that shade, whatever it may be, docks, anywhere there's shade, and you pop it, I feel like it mimics a bluegill better than a lot of other frogs. Now obviously in August we have a lot of emergent vegetation, grass mats and stuff like that. And whenever that's the case, you're not going to want a popping frog. You're actually going to want like a walking frog or something that kind of comes, skirts across the top of the grass a little bit better. That's what you're going to want. But I like a popping frog just for around that shade and stuff. And it's another one of those things where those big fish are up there keying on bluegill. And if you can just trick 1 or 2 of them a day, it's typically going to go a long way in August, whether you're fun fishing or you're fishing tournaments. So I like to throw a frog on a 7'6" heavy. I typically throw it on 60-pound braid and the fastest reel you can get. So an 8-to-1 gear ratio reel. Color, I don't think it really matters. It's all about putting the frog close to where those fish are feeding. Whether it's, you know, any kind of cover there is, you just got to put it in there and put it in front of enough of them to make one react to it. So this is obviously soft plastics is the other trend. It's kind of a polarizing time in August. You got to go really finesse or topwater. That's my approach. But a Wacky rig has been a killer, you know, pre-spawn, spawn, all the way into summer. We're starting to use it more and more and more. And the thing about it is when they're up there in that shallow water on the shade, I don't want a bait that falls super, super fast. This right here is a Crust City Janitor. It falls slow to medium. It falls, you know, not quite as fast as a stick worm style bait like the pig stick, but it's a little bit slower. And when you're throwing up there in that shade that's only a foot or 2 deep, it just hangs in their face a little bit longer and gives them more time to bite. And for whatever reason, when fish are feeding on bluegill, they really like to eat a Wacky rig. You know, typically green pumpkin, black. I like one that's a little bit red. I don't know why, it just feels like they commit to it really good. Throw it on a 7'2" medium spinning rod. 12-pound Sunline Overwatch to a 12-pound leader. I'm usually fishing for trying to catch big fish, you know, close to cover, so I'm gonna upsize that leader just a little bit. But I throw actually one thing I do different on a Wacky rig than a lot of people. I throw a 2-aught Gamakatsu drop shot split shot hook. And I feel like I get better hookups with this hook than any other hook I've ever used, and it's a little bit smaller and finessey, so I'm a big fan of it. But that's the first soft plastic. It's one that you gotta have really all times of the year, but especially in August. Another really good one, you know, isolated cover, docks, any of that type of stuff. When those fish get weird, dragging around a shaky head, it's been catching them for 20 years and it'll catch them for 20 more without a doubt, you know. So I typically throw a little bit lighter shaky head in August. Like I'm gonna throw a 3/16. The maximum I'm gonna throw is actually gonna be a 1/4 because I want that slow fall. I want that really lethargic, natural kind of slow moving action. And I typically like a really skinny worm. This right here is another Crust City Janitor and Green Pumpkin. I want something really skinny because I don't want it to be intrusive at all. I just want it to catch their eye and then really just not turn it down. I don't want it to, I'm not trying to draw them from a long way with something super bulky. I just want it to be finessey enough that whenever it catches their eye, they're not gonna, you know, they're not gonna negatively react to it. So shaky head, phenomenal bait in August. Isolated stumps and wood and anything mid-depth close to where those fish are in the morning and the evenings, that little mid-depth range to me in August is a big killer, is a killer place to fish. Kind of the same setup, 7'2" medium spinning reel, 12-pound Overwatch to 12-pound leader, you know, and I tighten my drag down pretty good with a shaky head. I want to set the hook really hard. I want to make sure that I get that hook in past the barb, and then if it's a really big one, I'll actually back my drag off while I'm fighting the fish. But that's just a kind of a way to just kind of peck around throughout the day and generate another bite or two. So none of these baits typically in August are going to be something you can throw all day and catch a lot of fish on. It's typically where you've got to mix it up and kind of use each bait situationally throughout the day, and then you can actually put together a really nice bag in August. Another way that this is probably between this and the frog, these are my two favorite ways to fish, and that's to flip heavy cover, especially when it's super, super hot. It seems like the hotter it gets, some of them really big fish will move super shallow into super thick cover. Now the deal with this is there has to be a canopy over their head in August, whether it be grass, brush, lay down trees, viney bushes, any of that stuff. There needs to be a canopy over their head. And so I'm typically gonna flip a heavier weight in August. Like my standard is gonna be a 1/2. I may even go up from there, especially if there's a lot of grass. But I also want that bait, whenever I'm flipping in cover, I want to generate a reaction strike. This is a little bit different from the other two soft plastics. This one is more of a, I want to go in, fall fast through the cover and make them react to it and make them eat it. When I'm flipping, in my mind, it's a reaction strike. So this right here is a Crust City Bronco bug. Caught a lot of really, really big ones on this, especially whenever it's really hot in the summer. And I mean, that is, between this and the frog, if I could fish every single day in August, that's the two main ones that I would have. But I like big line. You know, like I said, I'm trying to punch through canopies, whether it be wood, grass, whatever it is. I want 22-pound Sunline shooter as a standard. If it's a lot of grass, I'll go to braid. But 22-pound Sunline shooter, a 7/6 heavy, fast rod, and an 8-to-1 gear ratio reel. And I mean, it's a super fun way to fish, and it can be some of the most aggressive and some of the biggest bites that you catch in August are in a 1.5 foot of water under some, you know, dense cover. So those are my 5 standards for August. I'm gonna have them on the front deck literally every single day that I go fishing in August. If I can just if I get 2 bites a piece on them, it'd be a phenomenal day.